It's Wednesday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam Podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And I'm still Steven.
And we've got a whole lot of wrestling to cover for the week. We've got Revolution. We've got some WWE stuff. Real quick, before we get into that, I do want to touch on the New South Pro Wrestling Hoss tournament from this weekend. The most fun I've ever had at a live wrestling event. Like, I'm pretty reserved. You've been to wrestling stuff with me.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of hooting and hollering, but I marked out on Friday night. I drove over to Florence and saw night one. I didn't get to see night two, but I saw night one of the Hoss tournament. Lots of great matches. Fuego del Sol landed in my lap. At one point, I was on the front row.
You get to keep them when that happens, right?
Someone else landed in my lap, not as much as Fuego at one point, and the lady next to me was like, I think you got the hazard seat tonight. And then a light bulb hit me in the face from, there's like stringing lights throughout Singing River Live, the venue where they had the event. And Fuego did a top rope move out to the outside of the ring on Richard Holiday, clipped the lights. And they had managed to not ever hit them in the corner where the lights were like basically right above their head. And they would have to move in such a way to avoid the lights if they were doing a top rope maneuver from the corner. But he managed to bring them down from the middle of the rope somehow, and they were much farther away. So
how's Richard Holiday doing?
He looked great the other night. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'd never seen him before.
He's didn't he have? I think he survived cancer or something of that nature.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
He won Hoss the other night.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Rarefied air.
He apparently had a bye in the second round, and they had put up like the card for night two or whatever for the start of night two, and he was like, "I'm going to whoop Bye's ass tonight." But yeah, and congrats to the new champ, Braden Toon. He and Hunter Drake put on a hell of a match the other night, and Drake was champ for almost a year, and Braden got the win, and it was awesome. So yeah, just shout out to them real quick before we jump into the rest.
I'm curious to see how you would, because with us being at the Dynamite show, you were quiet. Meanwhile, I'm over there, talking shit left and right.
Oh, I was worse. I was worse than that. I was up in Hunter Drake's face, like with two middle fingers, yelling, "Fuck you, Hunter! Fuck you, Hunter!" Yeah, I mean, just marked out all fucking night. It was awesome.
That intimacy of those kind of shows definitely helps sometimes.
Yeah, I say you're right close to the ring,
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. So yeah, let's get into all the three of us attended Dynamite and Collision last week. We can speak briefly on that before we get into Revolution. Sting came down from the rafters, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Classic.
At one point, I looked over and I saw the jib camera was pointed up toward the rafters because I had been looking. Like I was like, I'm going to see if there's any telltale signs.
That's the first place I looked.
When the Bucks came in, I was joking because I didn't think about it because he's 70 years old. What is he going to do up in the rafters besides kill himself? And I'm like, oh, check the rafters. That's where you need to look first, Bucks. And then suddenly, shit,
there he is.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the WCW used to come down in the ring.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I guess safety reasons or whatever like that.
I'm assuming that's where the winch was.
Yeah, something like that. Because it was always cool Monday Night Nitro where his music would hit, NWO would look to the entrance. Down comes Sting, super fast.
Oh, this was not super fast, but this was still good.
Fast. It was cool.
It was cool. It was a nice, and the pay per view too. A nice little nostalgia. Because like for someone like me, right? I was born in 1990. So all of the Hogan WWF stuff kind of bypassed me. So like my Hulk Hogan really is Sting. Mm-hmm. When I was watching in 96, 97, this was the dude. And he was cool as shit.
Yep.
So to be able to be in attendance for the last time he's ever going to step foot in Alabama in a professional wrestling ring was pretty sweet. Appreciate you, Jeff Jarrett.
So we got the last of that. We got Will Ospreay's first official AEW appearance. And it was just a promo, but it was... Watching the video package that they put together and put out on social media this weekend, I texted John. I was like, I can run through a fucking brick wall right now.
Well, and Huntsville knew exactly who he was. Like, they might not have known the music necessarily the way they did at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But when his graphic came up and when he came out, people were like, yep. And they were cheering. They get a huge pop. Even he said in that little video that I showed you, that I texted to you, he was like, I couldn't even find Alabama on a map, but somehow my name has made it all the way through there. And like you talked about that video, I was also ready to run through a brick wall. And listen, I know we'll get into the pay-per-view. I'm ready to put the rocket ship on this dude.
Yeah.
And straight to the moon.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I think we both, maybe all three of us have some thoughts about that. But yeah, I mean, just, do y'all have any other thoughts on the Dynamite Collision stuff? I was just happy, like, basically anybody I wanted to see, I saw that night because we saw 2 shows.
There are certain chants that just need to stop. The what?
Yeah.
This is awesome, and you deserve this. Those Joes drive me nuts, and that crowd was on fire with a lot of those.
I think in that order, too. The what needs to die first.
Yeah, Patrick's
it literally
been
ruined
for a while.
stuff.
Yeah.
This is awesome. It's got to have its moments, but who got it when we were there?
Jericho and Atlantis Jr.
And that was not awesome.
That was mid.
You know.
To quote MJF, definite hard mid.
Yeah, that was. We were all looking around each other like, why the fuck is this the main event?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't make any sense. Anyway, I did think the 3-way match with Dante, Brian Keith, and
Penta from Collision
was fucking fire.
Wrong person went over, but yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
So yeah, let's get into Collision then. Patrick, you had some thoughts about the quality of the television product versus the pay-per-view.
Oh, you talking about for Revolution?
Yeah.
Oh,
Revolution,
yeah. I put this in the notes. If they could somehow manage to find a way to have the weekly television product resemble even half of the electricity that the AEW pay-per-view product has, they would be in good shape. There is a vibrancy to their pay-per-views. Like when this product is humming, it is, and I might be biased, it's the best professional wrestling I've ever seen. Like this goes beyond like a AEW, WWE thing. Like when they are on their shit, and particularly with Revolution, with these last 3 matches, that's the best hour and a half of professional wrestling I've ever seen. And I've watched a lot of it for a lot of years.
I've said it 1,000 times, but I've only been back in this wrestling game for about 5 years now. And I told my wife, Jamie, I said, Takeshita, we'll get there too, but Takeshita Ospreay was the best match I've ever seen in my life.
I definitely want to touch on that when we get there, but I somewhat agree with you. But as you said, that was the last hour and a half of that pay-per-view, of a 4-hour pay-per-view. But you had 2.5 hours prior to it where it's okay. But the thing I've noticed that drives me crazy is there is a repetitiveness to how AEW presents itself in the things that matter. And they have a tendency on their TV shows to throw out a bunch of crap that doesn't matter. And I think that's where they're failing is while they have, like, this pay-per-view had a lot of stuff that in theory mattered. How they presented some of it didn't quite go off the way they wanted it to, but it mattered. The story, it was the culmination of a lot of stuff, but it takes a long time to get to there. I mean, and that's going to change now because they're going to do 9 more of these pay-per-views a year.
Yeah.
So we might see that pick up a little bit, but between World's End and Revolution, we had 3 months of a lot of stuff being shoveled our way with only, the last half hour or one match out of an entire show meaning anything.
Yeah, which was weird. We talked about like they've been in a little bit of a slump because it used to be that like, most of the matches on a Wednesday night were pretty fire, and something's felt off. Right. Maybe it's been the booking. Well, a lot of it has been the booking. But yeah, I mean, I see your point, but like this show, the first 2.5 hours wasn't up to what we usually get out of the AEW pay-per-views. Like even last year, I thought that like we were all like, though they spend all their energy at fucking Wembley, it's like the next weekend's going to be shit. Well, that show was fucking fire.
Yeah. Right?
A bunch of matches where we were like, I don't know. Whatever. Is it worth $50? They're fucking great.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing, because as far as their pay-per-views go, I have not seen as many of y'all as y'all have. I've kind of checked out the things I liked, but I have not paid attention to them like I have, as I needed to now. But World's End and Revolution, if you cut that PB and the card in half, you have a hell of a better show.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think they have done a jumbo-sized pay-per-view just because they have routinely only done 4 or 5 a year. And if they are going to move to multiple ones, 9,
then they could start cutting back.
They could start cutting back, but also, can they really cut back? Because if they're still going to charge people $50 to watch one of these things, then you kind of have to load the card up with a bunch of stuff. I've watched pay-per-view twice now. Now, fast forward to the entrances. I don't think the first 2.5 hours was necessarily, it wasn't bad per se. I think the matches were out of order. And there's one match in here that all 8 guys in that match should be ashamed of themselves because they killed the crowd. I mean, they literally, the crowd.
Yeah.
You could watch it die when the match was going on.
I've got a comment on there too.
But again, man, like, just the last 3 matches alone. Like if I have to pay $50 to watch the caliber of those last 3 matches, like I'll do it because it is unlike anything. Yeah. There's a feeling I get when I watch when they are at the top of their game that is unlike anything else.
Let's start it then with Christian Cage versus Daniel Garcia. We've got a bunch of matches to get through. And then I'm sure we'll have some wrap-up thoughts. So we can't spend a ton of time on them.
Well, there's not much to spend on this one anyway.
Right. But, Christian Cage retained. Garcia put in a good showing. Patrick, you said that there's the right call to keep it on Christian.
Yep.
It was good, but nowhere near his best work in AEW.
This was an unmemorable match to me.
Yeah.
And what it pointed out to me more than anything is that it made me... I was noticing it when we were at the live show. And I was like, is she wearing heels? But she isn't. Mama Wayne is taller than everybody in that ring with the exception of Luchasaurus, and she ain't much smaller than him. And she looks built bigger than most of the people in that ring. And that bothers me so much because she is not a wrestler. And it's not, but she makes everybody else in that ring look like they are not wrestlers either.
I mean, Danny Garcia definitely needs to grow into his frame, the joke on this podcast, a special kind of creatine, a cycle of it or 2 will help you out. There, bud.
Jumpstart.
Yeah. But I mean, this is not, listen, the story with Christian Cage is whatever's going to happen with Adam Copeland.
Yep.
And Danny Garcia, the story coming out of this is the same story it's been in the Continental Classic, which is he can't win. He's a fine wrestler, but he can't win, which, is a good enough of a story, but they are doing something very similar with Bryan Danielson, which we'll get to.
But we're also 2 years into this story.
And again, it's been happening for a long time now. So,
and you have your monster, you have your heater in this match who choke slammed him, does nothing, then gets beat up by a commentator. Mind you, it's Daddy Magic, so he's a wrestler, but still, when was the last time he was an actual wrestler on the TV screen? And he should not be beating up your heater, your monster on his own. This
should not have been the opener.
Oh.
The opener should have been FTR and Blackpool Combat Club, because FTR with a little bit of the home crowd thing. I also think the FTR and Blackpool Combat Club match was pretty good, but also it's situated in a weird spot in the card where it was coming after all this stuff. It wasn't bad. It was not great watching it the first time. The second time, knowing it, all the guys were working hard. It was actually good, and it probably would have been a way better opener, and the crowd would have been way hyped for it had it been the first match.
I got 2 issues with that match. I don't need... Can we lay off the vampirism? I don't need Moxley to be eating somebody's head open every day when they're gushing blood left and right. There's a you don't need to be ECW in its prime kind of stuff. The time has moved on. I don't need that. And this match was nothing different than their TV match, except that blood, and it didn't have a time limit. There was no stipulation. There was nothing to it. It was a halfway decent match, but it was nothing. Nothing that, couldn't have been just accomplished on TV to me.
I mean, yeah, like if you were wanting to, cut down the card, then yeah, this could have main evented like a Dynamite or something like that.
Where it did main event a Dynamite. That's the thing.
Where it had more time though. I mean, they didn't have to worry about commercial breaks in this, and more so than their first match. I think the takeaway from this match is like Claudio's a beast. He has not come across this way in AEW to me, and he single-handedly kind of saved that match for Blackpool Combat Club and Moxley. I mean, just his ability to he's tossing people around.
Yep, but he's always done that.
He's never, but even in WWE and even in AEW, it never came across to me as explicit as it did in this match.
I do like the new twist with the spin where somebody gets kicked while they're spinning midair. I don't feel like they had been doing that.
I guess the bigger, when I want to get back to that repetitive nature, this match and I guess the one that was right before it, was that the Eddie Kingston, Bryan Danielson one?
Kingston and Danielson was second. I was about to try to get to that one.
They have one of the things that when you're building a card, you have to make the matches different so they can separate themselves, so you're not just watching the same thing. And I feel like these two matches kind of are the same match in a way. And I get it because it's people that are in the same faction that have the same mentality, but it doesn't stand out.
Listen, if we're going to move on to Kingston and Danielson, if it wasn't for Ospreay and Takeshita and Sting, this would have been, to me, if this was for the world title, this could have easily main evented a pay-per-view, and it could have been the exact same match that they ran. If this was for the AEW world title, I wouldn't have been mad at this.
See,
if it main evented a pay-per-view.
This was an okay match to me. This is the same match they've had 3 times now.
It was okay, I think mostly because the last 3 matches of the night were so far above what the rest of these matches were, right?
Yep.
Like Bryan Danielson and Kingston was the shit. If that was a Wednesday night, I'd been like, oh, that'd have been a great main event.
Again, if it was a Wednesday night, you would have thought it was a great main event.
Well, I mean, I think
to me, this is the note I got in there is let's talk about sequels. This is Jaws 2. This is Home Alone 2. This is Sandlot 2. This is just the same thing over and over again. There's nothing that stands out about this match that was different from the other 2 matches they had. The only thing that changed was there was a half-assed handshake at the back. Now, when you add in the stuff that they did behind the scenes, yeah, that helps it immensely, but that ain't what was on the screen.
I still didn't watch that yet.
Oh, it was good. But I think the respect for the end part of it is something, though, because this is sort of this match here with Bryan is the culmination of Eddie Kingston's story that has been since he's been in AEW, which is all of these people, CM Punk, Danielson, they all said this dude was wasted potential. He was going to be nothing.
King of the bums.
King of the bums. And now he has Danielson's respect. So the big question coming out of this is what's going to be next for Eddie? He's kind of built his entire story around this not getting respect from anybody.
But at the same time, what was the end of the FTR BCC match?
Well, they choked him out. I mean, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm talking about the post match.
Oh, the respect thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's the repetitive nature. When you put these 2 together back to back like that, there's nothing special about them. They no longer stand out.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you wanted to, this could have kicked off the pay-per-view. I would have rearranged a lot of stuff I would have kept the last 3 the same, but a lot of the stuff in the beginning is, I would have had Danielson or FTR kick off first and then have the women's title match and then I guess do the 8-man scramble, Christian Cage. It was just out of place for a little bit. And I think you could have separated definitely since the end of both of those matches, Kingston and FTR and Blackpool Combat Club was kind of based off respect. Separating them a little bit probably would have been helpful.
But also
anytime I can watch Danielson wrestle though, dude, this is anytime I'll watch this dude.
And I don't. I'm wearing out on the chop me. You hurt my leg. Please kick me in the leg that you just hurt. I get you tough. I get it. But if you are trying to present yourself as a sports-based product, you don't, when you are gimping around the ring, you don't have the guy kick you in the knee that you potentially just injured.
I mean, I get that. It's an overblown trope. They do a lot of it in AEW. They do a lot of it in WWE too. But yeah, I mean, if we could knock out some modern tropes in wrestling, that would probably be on the list for sure.
Have we talked about the fact that he's been doing Yes again? Because
Yes.
when he first came into AEW,
I ain't going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
and
doing
he
it.
just kind of started it in the last couple of weeks.
It's been more than a week.
It's hard not to.
It's the only thing that, you know, it's what the crowd wants him and knows him for
Right.
as a whole. And, you know, you got to go back to what's working for you.
But Danielson now, as the last thing on this match, he now has the Danny Garcia story, which is he's now wrestled Mox for the title, lost. He's wrestled Hangman and Omega for both the titles. Drew one, lost the other one. He is a dude who, granted, he is a legend. He's on a lot of people's Mount Rushmores, and he's probably the greatest in-ring wrestler of all time. But now his story in AEW, if they decide to go down this route, and they probably should, is he is not that guy anymore. He continually loses these matches. And I think that's an interesting character choice for him, considering if this is going to be his last year and a half that he's going to be a full-time wrestler, having somebody come out and be like, listen, you are great, but you ain't that guy anymore. Like, sorry, and I'm going to prove it to you. That's a compelling sort of character trope for him. Now, he's got to have a good dance partner for that to work.
I keep thinking it's going to come back to him and Garcia. Because he said again last week, he's like, if the Blackpool Combat Club were to add somebody, I feel like it would be Garcia.
I mean, they would have good matches, but I think it probably should be somebody with a little bit more cachet. You know, Jay White, Danielson, on that sort of level, someone who could beat Danielson and rise up the ranks. Or, you know, they might have Samoa Joe is going to need a challenger after he beats the shit out of Wardlow, hopefully. So we'll see what happens there with that.
Speaking of Wardlow, do we even want to spend any time on the 8-man match?
Because I'm so mad at this thing. I'm still mad at this. I was hot when we were at the Dynamite show on the Wednesday before it, when they were like, we're not doing the Meat Madness because of injury, and then we're going to do an all-star 8-person scramble. There were 4 people in this match that didn't need to be in this match. Chris Jericho, Dante Martin,
Magnus.
I'm sorry, that was Random Luchador. Yes.
Yeah.
Jericho was probably pee-pee in his poo-poo pants because he wasn't on the card, and they had to come up with something.
And I can't even remember who else was in that match. It was Cage, Hobbs, Lance Archer, and Wardlow were the 4 I said should be. So who's that?
Dante Martin.
He shouldn't have been there, but there was one other person that's in there that I'm not hitting.
I don't even know. I don't remember.
Hook. Did you say Hook?
Hook. Thank you.
Yes.
Hook. Those 4, Hook, Jericho, Martin, and Random Luchador, did not need to be in there. No point. Martin ain't flying like he used to fly. I mean, if you watch that match back, anytime he tries to go over a rope, he's clipping his legs on the rope and almost damn near killing somebody, himself included. Jericho, he was a legend, but it's time. It's time. Just let it go.
Yeah. Might be past time.
Hook has some nice suplexes, but he ain't it.
Hook is not good enough to understand where you should be positioning wise in a professional wrestling match.
Yeah.
And like I said, I put in the notes, this match killed the crowd because there was a moment very early on where a bunch of dudes were just standing at each other because no one knew what to do.
And then they did we'll get on it. But then you have also Random Luchador. There is no point in introducing a new character into that match if you've got Penta that is able to wrestle.
Right.
That was a Penta spot. And he could have fit in there, and then you could have had 5 people in that match and got rid of 3, because then you wouldn't have. He's not quite meat, but he's tough enough that I think in his head he thinks he's meat.
Yeah.
But if you had just left it as, you know, Cage, Hobbs, Lance Archer, and Wardlow,
yeah,
that's Meat Madness.
Yeah, I don't understand why they called an audible when the only 2 guys that were injured were Miro and Keith Lee that were going to be added to this.
They could have still had a 3-way meat match.
And if you look at the poster, this is what makes me so mad, is if you look at the poster, it is spaced the exact same way that Samoa Joe, Swerve, and Hangman Page were positioned. There was not additional space that you were trying to fit in, like when you had the 8-man poster where they had the blank spots and all that stuff and people spread out. It was the same way. They weren't planning to make additional people. This was just, let's get some people on the show bullshit. And those people didn't need to be on the show. I'm sorry. And then
that was the match when I got up and was kind of like doing some shit around the apartment that needed to be done real quick. And I was like, okay, I got a few minutes.
Yeah, this was, and the crowd knew that too.
And then you had the moments where, okay, we're going to be in the ring with the four meaty people. All right. We're looking at each other, you and me, let's hit these two guys, and you two guys can hit us back. And so they do that for 3 minutes, and then they leave. Then the non-meaty people come in and go, hey, we should do the exact same thing they just did for 3 minutes. This is what I mean by they keep doing those tropes and be repetitive about it. So it takes things that have potential and it's just oversaturation.
I texted y'all about this the other night before we get to Orange versus Roddy. Did Pat come back and I missed it? I saw something.
I think
on
there was
Twitter
like a pre-show thing where he
was not on it.
He cut some kind of, he had a video package on the pre-show.
Okay. Well, I was going to say the zero matches. I mean, if you want to talk about a complete waste of time, those zero matches would have been another one.
Yeah.
No, because we got the legendary gif of Jeff Jarrett doing the strut with his other 7 people, which is the most hilarious wrestling gif I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if y'all saw that.
I have not seen it.
He hit the Fargo strut in the ring and like outside the ring, Satnam, Sanjay, Willie Mack, everyone does it in unison.
Oh, Jesus.
It's fantastic.
So let's get to Orange versus Roddy. Roddy wins with no interference. Kyle O'Reilly appears at the end. He refuses the Undisputed Kingdom shirt and then whispers something into Roddy's ear.
I'm assuming what he said was, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired.
He looked real emotional.
He looked emotional. He looked a little haggard. I think that might be a character choice that he's doing. I'm just excited as hell to see Roderick Strong be, positioned as a serious technical wrestler. He was breaking out back breakers from every kind of angle. Again, much like the Danielson Kingston match, they told a story inside the ropes with Kingston's or Cassidy's taped up kinesio taped stomach.
But here's the problem with this story. Do you care about the Undisputed Kingdom?
No,
I don't still.
But Roderick Strong looked good in this match, and that's enough going forward.
That's the first time he's looked good in 3 months.
Yeah, I agree with you. But it doesn't take away from the work that was done inside the pay-per-view in the match.
I think that's what's killing me is that they have these opportunities to tell good stories, but because they don't know how to tell stories well, I guess that's an extreme statement because they're good at some of it, but they aren't good at getting across those emotions. It does not. You don't have any buy-in. I mean, maybe your views of these matches were different, but at no point was I like, oh, false finish. It was just a. It's very standard.
They're less melodramatic than WWE, so it's not a prolonged. They're going to cut to a close up of the agony on Cassidy's face, and he's going to be like halfway crying. But like, the commentary told the story that Orange Cassidy has been probably the greatest fighting champion in that company's history.
100% I agree. And he's the only one that's working in there. And
that's part of his downfall is that he should have never done this match. And Roddy was the perfect person with his moveset and skill set, and like I said, all the backbreakers coming out of nowhere, he's the perfect guy to take this from him. Now, you have to see what the Undisputed Kingdom is going to go do going forward, because now Roddy has a belt. Wardlow, I guess, is going to get a title shot at some point. I don't know when.
This year.
It will happen.
Probably on the pay-per-view next month.
The biggest thing that's hurting the Undisputed Kingdom is the fact that the leader is in a wheelchair.
Well, no. That is a big, definite hurt. But I would say the fact that you've got the kingdom is one that's hurting the Undisputed Kingdom the most. If you get rid of Bennett and Tavern, it's addition through subtraction. That
they're just two guys.
They're two guys.
They're just two guys, sure. But to me, that would be the second problem. The first is that Adam Cole has to be pushed down the ramp in a wheelchair.
Look, I'm not making slight of the man's health, but how long does it take to recover from a broken ankle? Like, Dante Martin got his leg torn the fuck off last year and doesn't feel like he was out this long.
Well, and I get he's in a wheelchair, and I get it's probably a bitch to travel with it. But can he not cut promos? He's a great talker. Why can we not use him in some kind of capacity?
I mean, we've gotten a handful of them. Like, I'm sure he's traveling with like a crutch, and that the wheelchair is probably just.
Well, he wasn't there Wednesday. He wasn't there the week prior.
Me and Steven thought we saw him.
He wasn't there the week prior.
And he didn't have a wheelchair when we saw him.
Yeah, that's right.
And part of the entrance of Roddy Strong here at the pay-per-view was the surprise of Adam Cole, or for the Wardlow thing, Adam Cole coming out in the wheelchair and being there present. So, like, I don't know, man. If you want this to be a heel faction, the dude who is the leader needs to be on camera more.
But here's the thing. They're not going to put him on camera more because the guy he's feuding with ain't there either. And if AEW has shown us anything, if the guy that you're feuding with is out, you're out.
Which
Adam
again,
Cole could be 100% healthy at this stage, and he'll still be on that wheelchair until MJF comes back.
Which again, as much as I like Roderick Strong, I said when they did this firsthand, I think the Undisputed Kingdom's first opponent should have been Roderick Strong, who felt slighted by the fact he was left out of this group by his best friend, and you should have had a babyface Roderick Strong feuding with the Undisputed Kingdom, because at least you had something going on. Roddy was getting the next Strong stuff over. He's good enough of a wrestler that the fans would have got behind him.
Yep.
But they didn't do it. They went down this route
And
instead.
let's imagine this. Kyle O'Reilly shows up and helps Roderick. Suddenly you're building something even bigger. And instead it's, I wouldn't, if you offer, if now mind you, if just having Roderick offer me the shirt, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'm in your group. But having Tavern offer me, I'd be like, no, we're good. On the Kingdom, yeah, we're good.
So we'll see
Ain't nobody want to join that.
What wrinkle happens with this. I mean, Kyle O'Reilly is a superb professional wrestler.
Yep.
So
but again, here's the problem with Kyle O'Reilly. What mold is he gonna fit in that promotion that isn't already being filled by Daniel Bryan? And Daniel Garcia, he is the scrappy underdog, and you have at least 3 of those.
But, maybe he could take some TV. I'm not so sure. Garcia is a great wrestler, but like, could he just be in Ring of Honor for 4 months while we do something with Kyle O'Reilly? Like, I think one of the problems with AEW is that as soon as these guys get healthy, there's only so much TV time.
Right.
The ball can only go to so many people.
Yeah. Stop loading up Rampage. Why are we putting bullshit on Friday night?
Well, and some of these guys, like Steven was talking about, Chris Jericho, man, you had a great run. It's time. I think it's time.
I think he's too much of a fucking narcissist.
Well, then somebody's got to get in this man's head and be like, listen, dude, okay, you're not taking anything from Will Ospreay. Okay, first of all, we'll get to that match. That man is a star that you ain't going to be able to burn out no matter how much you leave him off TV.
I think he's going to expose a lot of that roster.
He is. I mean, is that next? Can we just start talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for us to discuss. We did FTR versus Mox and Claudio pretty much. There's Tony Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo.
It's fine. We can come back to that.
I mean, we don't. It's fine. So Ospreay and Takeshita is next. Ospreay's my note says Ospreay's back is fucked up after that drop on the buckle, and then I was like, oh, maybe not. And then
he fucked up that back, but it's more rug burn and bruised, and I don't think it's gonna put him out. But this is what I mean when I'm talking about making the most of those minutes. This was that match, because coming into it, the only build was the Wednesday night show of Don Callis half-hearted saying, yeah, I wanted these two to go out against just because they're, great wrestlers. Now, mind you, having him at commentary and letting him just run with that for the 20 minutes that they were doing shit was superb. But this is one of those stories where the story behind it ain't that impressive, but the fact that they made those moments and stood out doing things that nobody else on this card was doing is what makes this so damn good.
You mentioned he's going to expose some people. Listen, I got in the notes here, Will Ospreay feels like 1991 Michael Jordan. Do you guys get that reference? 1991 is when Michael Jordan won his first NBA championship, and the league was his from that point forward. Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, a lot of guys never won a championship because they just happen to be in the same era as MJ. Will Ospreay coming into this company, if I am a Chris Jericho, if I'm a Jay White, if I'm a Kenny Omega, if I'm all these top Moxley, if I'm all these top guys, I don't know how you don't watch that match from Revolution and be like, oh shit, we got a guy, number one. And two, I've got to up my game because the bar has been raised. The energy in the room in Greensboro Sunday night, when his music hit, they had watched mainly mid to bullshit stuff for the first 2.5 hours. And they immediately were into it when the dude was making his entrance because they felt like they were about to see something special. And he delivered.
Yep. But here's what's this is what I love about this even more, because that was the best match on the card, right?
Oh yeah.
If you get the opportunity to go watch his final match over in the Rev Pro, it's even better because there's story to it, and they're telling, because the story in this match was just, I'm going to one up you kind of thing, whereas there was legitimate callbacks to things that had happened behind it. There is no way when you give him that thing, that the ball to run with in this situation, that if the others don't step up, they're going to get left behind. Yeah. No one else. No one else. There are relatively few people that are going to be able to keep up with him in ring work at his normal speed.
I think this match, we were like, there's no real story there, last week on the show. But I mean, to me, like watching it, it was like, okay, well, this is what we get for several years, is these two dudes. I was like, this is a rivalry that could be.
But again, that got helped by that backstage segment that you talking about, one that make you want to run through the wall, where he's talking about, I'm not looking for a teammate, I'm looking for a rival.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was a good step toward it. But Takeshita ain't gonna fight him on the mic. It's gonna be all in-ring work. The people that can fight him on the mic aren't the ones that are going to be able to keep up with him in the ring. I mean, Jay White maybe, but at this stage, I don't know if Jay White still has it, because what AEW is showing ain't the Jay White that people know.
Well, I don't think he's getting booked the right way.
Yeah, I mean, you can look up and down the card. I think there are some guys that Will can have a really good feud with. Now, granted, for it to hit levels where they bring in more fans, the storytelling has to be there. But Stephen, you had mentioned a couple weeks ago that you were afraid like Will Ospreay might come in and, do what normally happens with people and get, and, it's the hot toy 1 second, it goes away. That's not going to happen. I have a stronger belief that it will not happen. Yeah. But I have at least 2 years of experience with this that says it might still. I get that, but there are some people that are just built different. Yep. This dude, I'm telling y'all, he is the real deal. And for this company, there's only been 2 wrestlers in the past, I want to say maybe 10 years, that I've watched that are on the come up where I'm like, this dude is doing something that I've never seen anybody else do before. And those 2 wrestlers, MJF and Will Ospreay. And they are both in AEW.
I would add Gunther to that list.
Gunther is a throwback to other kind of things. I'm saying MJF because MJF's mic work and the character work, particularly in the CM Punk feud where he's the bad guy, but he's up there shedding real tears that are falling. And it's like, I've never seen a bad guy cry in a promo before. And Will Ospreay, as good as Gunther is great.
Here's why I say MJF is not there anymore. MJF had the mystique of being his personality. He portrayed himself off screen from all the reports as the same way he was being portrayed on screen.
Right.
They have killed that mystique.
I think he can get it back, and I think MJF is a heel against a babyface Will Ospreay.
Oh, MJF will not keep up with him.
Oh, no. Because here's what I think is great about Ospreay, though. Ospreay is the type of guy that can elevate, and I think he can dance with a lot of different people because of his skill set. Like people always thought this dude is just a flippy floppy guy. He's not that. Now he can do that. That's in his back pocket.
That's because of the matches that were illustrated back in the day. He has had several years to grow out of that.
Yeah, he's grown out of it. But to an American audience, he is just now getting to that point. But like even in this match, like the greatness of Will Ospreay, it's not just the moves, and it's not the way he executes those moves, though he does them flawlessly. The little where you just jump out of you go right over the top rope onto the outside. I forget what that move's called. So many guys do that, and it looks okay. And he does it, and it looks like the coolest thing ever. And it's not even like the Kenny Omega Tapa con Hilo or anything like that. Like there's a crispness to the way that he moves. But also, it is the way in which he paces a match, which I have to think at this point is a majority of him, because he's now had matches with Cassidy and Omega and Takeshita and Chris Jericho. All have kind of had these. You saw in the match with Takeshita, there's a sequence where he hits the Slumdog Millionaire, the Cassidy move, because he's wrestled Cassidy before. So now he's learning from his opponents about where to get in position. Then he hits the Styles Clash. AJ Styles, he's wrestled that guy before. Then he hits the Poison Rana. Well, who's that moves? Well, that's Kenny Omega's move that he uses. Then he hits the Tiger Driver, and then he hits the Hidden Blade. Like the way he paces and sequences things, it is watching a master at work. He is shades of AJ Styles. He's shades of Bryan Danielson. He reminds me a little bit of Kurt Angle, and like the way he like kind of counters wrestles and kind of gets into surprising things. Yeah, because
there was a lot of counter, and I love
countering.
That. But again, my concern with him in AEW isn't his ability; it's AEW's ability to
make it work.
Make it work. When you have a company who prides itself on everybody having creative control, nobody has creative control. And that's what we're seeing behind the scenes with people not wanting to do things. So if somebody thinks that he's going to outshine them, they're not going to want to do things. And it's the logistics of their company that make me concerned about him, not his ability.
They can go ahead and release Miro from his contract because fuck that guy.
And see, but again, I'm not sure that that's not a narrative AEW is pushing, just because anytime somebody isn't working out, that's the narrative that gets pushed. And if, as I said earlier, there's one thing that AEW loves to do, it's repeat shit. So I'm willing to think that that's just AEW talking shit, as opposed to
he doesn't want to take a pin.
Yeah, because they don't know how to tell a different story, because they have so many things that just gets repeated. That when I see things that keep getting repeated about people that they're not using, it makes me go, well, okay, I'm starting to think it's you, not them.
I get the storytelling part. I get what you're saying. But to me, I get so much joy in watching Will Ospreay wrestle that if I have to put up with 5 weeks of repetitive bullshit and then I have to pay $50 to watch Ospreay wrestle whoever, I'm telling you I'm going to do that every single time.
I want to read this real quick. This is something that I found interesting the other night. It probably ties into this. And if it doesn't tie into this match specifically, it ties into AEW in general. So I don't know who this guy is. It just popped up in our feed the other day on Twitter. His first tweet says, "I don't mean this is gatekeeping. In fact, practically the opposite. But if you didn't enjoy tonight, AEW is probably not for you. No such thing as a perfect show, but that was almost everything AEW wants to be and what AEW fans want it to be." He says, "If you want to come in, the gate's wide open. We'd love to have you. Just understand that this is the product that we want, the storylines, the payoffs, and the, in parentheses, I cannot stress this enough, high emphasis on the excellence of in-ring work. That is what AEW is at its best." And hopefully this goes without saying, but if you didn't enjoy tonight, AEW being not for you doesn't make you wrong. You just have different tastes, and that's fine. One thing that I did notice after we talked last week about how much of the show of 4 hours was actually wrestling in Elimination Chamber, they didn't fuck around at all between matches.
No, it's straight. They go straight into it.
Well, I mean, hold on. They did some promos that are like some.
They did like packages, short packages,
but they weren't like super long.
It wasn't like 30 minutes of commercials.
To me, this was the first time, and maybe I'm wrong, and I just haven't noticed it. But this was the first time I noticed them doing those packages.
Yeah, they seem to have upped their level of production in terms of the video packages, and like we talked about, the Ospreay sort of behind the scenes and the Kingston Danielson behind the scenes post match. There's more of that stuff.
Yep.
And I think that stuff is where they really shine, and they should continue to run in that direction, and hopefully they will.
Yep. But
But can you
take so long to like we were talking about with the Daniel Bryan fighting all the Japanese wrestlers. It took them 5 matches, or what was it, 4 or 5 matches?
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Before they finally came out and emphasized.
Who is this guy?
They have the ability to do it, but for whatever reason, and I get that, if the IWC would be telling me, well, you shouldn't have to be spoon-fed, but there's an accessibility issue. This is a reason why those numbers on a weekly basis aren't growing. You're not accessible for the most part.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that much energy. You don't have to be 40 minutes of promo.
Well, what's weird, they used to do it. Like when Mance Warner had a match a year ago. They did a whole 3-minute package on Mance Warner and who he was and why he was on TV. And I'm sure they did it with other people too. I just specifically remember.
They're also not consistent with what they do. Hey, we're doing rankings. Okay, but we're not doing rankings for this month. Hey, we're going to do these intro vignettes about people talking about why they're getting ready to kick somebody's ass right before Collision. But we're not going to do that anymore. They are pushing in some directions, and then they don't fully commit to anything.
I think their biggest problem, they got so big so fast because when they came on the scene, WWE was the drizzling shits, and people were just wanting something different.
100%.
And Jericho was there, and then fucking Jon Moxley walks right out of WWE, right into AEW. Kenny Omega was still there, healthy, putting on. Cody Rhodes was there. They just got too big too quickly, and they probably didn't have enough time to focus on the internal infrastructure of how we're going to run this company and the things we're going to do, because holy shit, boom, 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 we're making it. And then now it's like a band, right?
They're tuning up. They're dialing it in. They're getting tighter, but it's. I need to see it on a long-term basis for me to believe that it's actually going to stick, as opposed to everything else that they just kind of throw up against the wall.
Sure.
But coming out of this pay-per-view, there was a level of excitement and buzz, even on the internet, amongst people who aren't AEW diehards. They have kind of a moment here.
Oh yeah,
they have a roster.
I hope they capitalize on it.
Swerve is amazing. The character work with Hangman is great. It's some of the best work he's done in AEW.
It's one of the best. We'll get to that, but that was one of the best.
Samoa Joe is a legitimate champion. Now I wish they'd present him a little bit better, but he is a badass and he has name recognition.
Yep.
Fucking Will Ospreay, like holy shit! If this first time you watched AEW, who the fuck are you gonna leave the pay-per-view talking about? It's gonna be about that dude. Again, Omega's Danielson, Kingston. They have a lot of top name guys, but yes, always the question with AEW is, what are the stories going to be? Because everybody is not like me. Everybody will not be able to just watch and enjoy watching just the wrestling for the wrestling's sake.
I mean, because the way I was looking at it is I could come in here and show you, just have clips of some good martial arts movies fights. Don't have the story or anything about it. Just have the fights there. There's only so many of those that you're going to be entertained by.
That is true, unless one Will Ospreay.
But again, if I had a bunch of Jackie Chans in there,
yeah,
that makes a difference because he is able to induce his personality into those fights, and that's what Will Ospreay does.
Listen, we All In is in London. I get it's predictable. I don't give a shit. Dude's walking out of All In, the AEW World Champion.
If he's not, I'm questioning what they're doing.
Let's shift gears to Samoa Joe versus Hangman versus Swerve.
Well, before we get to that one, let's get the garbage out of the way, please.
What?
The Tony Storm garbage.
Oh, it was fine.
It was no. Can we be done with this?
It's not. I wish that they would just let Tony be a full-fledged babyface.
Yeah.
Because she comes across way different in the media scrums than she does on the television product. Now, granted, that's probably because she has a lot more control about the little media scrums than she does the weekly television products. at least it's something different with Mariah May coming out looking like Toni Storm. And
that was funny.
It's something for her to do.
But this is what Mercedes is coming into. This is what your top independent hire that you're building up an entire pay-per-view around.
Last week we called the episode "The Savior is Coming" because Ospreay was coming. Maybe the Savior is coming.
It could be
the name of this episode as well.
Listen, like, and I mean that's a good point. Like, if Mercedes comes in here and she's motivated,
they're going to step up,
or get left behind.
Yep. So anyway, Samoa Joe, Hangman Swerve.
Goes full fucking heel.
We got a full double turn. This was this is full on Bret Hart, Stone Cold to me.
This is when he started beating the shit out of the second ref. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That there's some things about that bug. That ref came down, saw him. If that ref is coming in to adjudicate that match, while he is running up there, he saw Hangman hitting people with a belt. Why ain't he disqualifying right there?
You can't I don't think you can disqualify on a triple threat. It's no DQ.
Then why aren't they hitting each other with chairs left and right?
Well, that's good. They do a lot of times in triple threat matches. That is a good point. That's always been. That's why I don't like. In a perfect scenario, if you're letting me build a wrestling company, every multi-man match would be an elimination match. There wouldn't be one pinfall and the guy wins the whole thing. Every multi-man would be an elimination match. But yeah, the double turn. This is the most interesting Hangman's been in a while.
I would agree with this statement. I think this is, and I'm curious to see how, because people are already behind Swerve, but I'm curious to see how his personality shifts a little bit or if he's just going to be an asshole, face.
I think he just stays a cocky dude that people are like, that motherfucker's cool, and I want to root for him.
I kind of hate it because Hangman's one of my favorites, and I don't like to typically be a heel guy, but
I love being a heel guy.
I marked out a little bit when I was like, he went full fucking there.
He did, and like we said, the build up even of this match was Samoa Joe happens to be the champion. Unfortunately, though, the story's not about him. The story is
and that's
about
my biggest complaint about this.
Swerve and Hangman, which, listen, that is a rivalry.
Yep.
Like I'm saying, this company has so many young stars. If they could just do it right, they could build around so many of this stuff. Swerve and all these guys are talented. The one thing that I wish came out of this match that was a little bit more kind of on the nose, like sometimes you do need to beat people over the head with it. And commentary played it up that, maybe Hangman just tapped to keep from Swerve. If that's the case, what I need is Swerve struggling to get back into the ring when Hangman is in the choke and Hangman starts smiling and tapping while he's looking at Swerve.
This did not come across as that. This came across as Samoa Joe tapping this dude out.
Yeah.
So if we're putting the belt on Ospreay in August, we're in March now. Do we put the belt on Swerve just to take it away?
I don't think so at this point. I think Samoa Joe keeps it.
I think Wardlow takes it at some point before that, and so we're gonna have a Wardlow run, and then it goes on somebody else before Ospreay.
Because Swerve versus Ospreay would be the shit
it would be
an All In.
It would be
All Out.
But I think now them making this call, I think Samoa Joe has to hold it till August.
I'd say I don't think he does. And
you think Wardlow takes it from him?
Based on the way he was talking that garbage and for Collision, where
that he butchered and botched everywhere,
that he's wanting Joe, I think, and because you have that story with the Undisputed Kingdom about them trying to, he's won the match now. He is in the position he has essentially won their Royal Rumble.
Well, okay, so here's what I'm going to need to have happen then. I don't know where MJF is injury-wise. If we're going to do Samoa Joe and Wardlow, MJF has to cost Wardlow the title. You talk about leaving people behind. Wardlow is not at the caliber of any of these dudes we just mentioned.
He is not.
It's not in the ring. It's not in the character work. It's not in the promo work. There's nothing. My main problem with Wardlow, since he has gotten out from underneath the wing of MJF, he does not feel like a believable character. He feels like a tough dude who is trying to play a wrestler, and that stands out like a sore thumb in WWE, and it really damn stands out like a sore thumb in this company.
I think, and this is just me just thinking about something you just said here. One of the things that WWE is really good at is there is a mentorship mentality there where you take somebody like that and they will do everything they can to build that person. They will give them every tool to work with. I don't know if AEW has that same.
No, they don't. AEW, like I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. AEW is the place you come in when you already have some cachet and you want to do cool, interesting shit.
But they have put him with various mouthpieces, but none of those have. I don't think he's underneath their learning tree so much as just there. I don't know if he's in the car with them talking stuff. I don't know if he's whatever. I don't get the impression that he is learning. I feel like he is trying to do this all on his own and he's struggling.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. But, you know, them's the breaks, kid.
Yep.
So, sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
But if that's the case, then you don't have him win that match either.
Well, he probably shouldn't be around there. But I think MJF is probably the reason he wins that match. Like I said, we haven't heard anything about MJF's injury. I think MJF is probably on his way back.
And
sooner.
officially he hasn't officially signed yet.
So maybe he signs the AEW contract over Wardlow's lifeless body in the middle of the ring after he knocked them all out or something.
We haven't gotten the great bidding war, at least on TV.
I think that that train has passed, and at this point, if MJF comes back on AEW TV talking about that and not talking about the fact that these masked dudes cost him his championship, then that's a lost cause dead in the water.
The thing I did not like about this match, and I've been harping on this for a while, the AEW title feels secondary to a bunch of stuff.
The title, it definitely felt secondary to this match, but Joe is the type of guy who he looks good holding the title.
He does.
He looks like a legitimate tough guy, badass dude. And he came across that in this match. I thought this match was also really great. Obviously, it wasn't Ospreay Takeshita, but
but see that this is
what it needed to be.
That's two different things. This match is great for what it accomplishes in a storytelling production. This is, to me, while I enjoyed the Takeshita Ospreay match because it is was just so intensely amazing. But this match is what I'm expecting out of the Eddie Kingston matches, out of the BCC FTR matches. This is what they should be trying to emulate.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Well, they did in this pay-per-view, though. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah. It was weird because it's in the middle of Ospreay and Takeshita, and then, there were rumors that they weren't going to put the tag team match on at last.
Well, we talked about this. The tag team match. Sting is going on last. He's the main event. Everyone who had questions about that were like, "What is happening?"
So let's get into that.
Yeah.
And they used Metallica, Seek and Destroy. I popped for that.
They had a hell of a opening production thing with Sting looking up.
I was laughing. I was popping myself because all I could picture of when Sting was sitting there in that theater, I was just picturing the Nicole Kidman intro to AMC Theaters.
It was a little bit like that.
We come here to see the stories. They make us laugh. They make us cry.
Good. Yeah, fantastic production on that and intro and.
We get Surfer Sting and Wolfpack Sting.
That was fucking great. Because when it first came out...
See, I have a different opinion. I thought that was goofy as hell.
No, it wasn't. No.
I didn't realize it was his son at first. I was like,
who are these goofballs? And man, that guy, that Wolfpack Sting one, that's rough. And then I'm like, oh, it's his son. So I'm like...
I thought it was fucking great. Look, I'm a guy for nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Not to the point where I want to see Chris Jericho on fucking TV every week, but I do love a good bit of nostalgia.
I'm with you there. It just
But say what you will about Tony Khan, but the respect and the class that he showed in letting Sting go out this way as opposed to the way he was treated at WWE says a lot about Tony Khan, the man, right?
Well, I mean, if you're comparing Tony Khan to Vince McMahon, yes, I would say Tony Khan is a billion miles better than Vince McMahon.
But the way WWE treated Sting is unforgivable.
Sure.
For all the parties involved.
Well, and there were a lot of things, headlines and tweets, things this weekend too about, Sting didn't want to come in and he didn't want to be undefeated and he what this, that, and the other. But
Right.
Tony was pretty adamant about like, hey, I think we can make this work. And I feel like they did. I feel like, they won and we had said last week, what happens if he wins, then what? But pretty quickly, I guess the press conference or whatever, maybe it was the next morning, TK was like, yeah, titles are vacated. We're just going to have a tournament.
Which is what we said.
This match was, I loved and I hated it at the same time. I appreciate his sons being there representing that nostalgia bump. But are they helping him or not? Because about a quarter way into that match, even though Sting's getting his ass, I guess they got tired and went home. They didn't stick around to see their dad. But then you got Ricky and you got Rick. And I don't need... I enjoyed Ric Flair. I don't need him in the ring anymore in any fashion or form.
No, he looked terrible in Huntsville last week.
I love Ricky. I don't need him to be involved in a match. I don't need multiple octogenarians in a match to go over two other people. That's too much.
I get what you're saying. I understand. I agree. I don't care. From the opening get-go, watching Revolution, I was like, this is the match. I want to see Sting's final match.
If you take out the retirement aspect of this match.
But you can't.
But hold on. If you take out the retirement aspect of this match.
This is still a bonkers, crazy-ass match.
But would you have enjoyed it as much?
Probably not, but you can't take away the retirement aspect. It is the story. That's the vital part of it. This is an icon. Like I said at the beginning, this is my Hulk Hogan and a lot of people's Hulk Hogan. This is the culmination coming off the way he was treated in WWE, where he's at WrestleMania, he gets beat by Triple H, and Michael Cole goes, "The Monday Night War is finally over." Like,
okay, but again,
shut up.
That is a straight up Vince being a Vince, and I get that angered people.
Yeah, I mean but that's what I'm saying is like all of that, the way he has been treated, leading up to now, where he comes into AEW and he is treated like a big deal, and he is treated like an icon, and he is treated like, wherever you place him top of all time, he's within easily the top 10, I think. And for me, he might be closer in the 5 to 7 type of range. So to have him be treated like a big star and to have him be able to go out still healthy enough on his own terms, when honestly, a lot of his contemporaries, not only are they in bad health, some of them are not here anymore.
Yep.
And so to see that and to see AEW celebrate him and really in a type of way do something that WWE kind of rarely does, which is sort of celebrate the history of professional wrestling and celebrate all these guys who have put their bodies on the line to help evolve this art form that we all love. It's special, man.
I think I was hoping in my head, I was kind of hoping more of a Flair Michaels retirement style match where these are two vastly different matches in the sense that yes, one is tag team, one was singles.
Yeah.
But there was a overbookingness of those two differences as well. And I don't know. This one was, like I said, I love that what you're saying 100%. I get it 100%. But I just would have liked it to be pulled back somewhat.
No, I think you go full bore. This is what, if this is what the man wants to do, if Steve Borden, the man, says this is what I want to do, this is what we're doing. And fucking,
but honestly, it's not, but according to what everybody's saying is this isn't what Steve Borden wanted to do. He wanted to do something else, but this is what Tony Khan wanted to do for him.
But what Corey was referring to is the Young Bucks were his last match. That was a Sting because he got to pick his opponent. Sting didn't want to go in and have the tag team titles and win the match. But I think in terms of like the match that he wanted to have, I think this is it.
Yeah, maybe.
And
I don't get it, but he is full bore in on Darby being the best thing to happen to him since finding Jesus.
He found life. like a sense of renewal, I think. You know, like
Yeah.
I told this story several years back, and it's not my story to tell, but it was told on one of my former podcasts. I had Corey Ryan Forrester on, and he was talking about how, you know, he had gotten to be Sting's handler at StarCast one year. And, you know, he was talking about, he was in the red, white, and blue gear, and, you know, he was just doing conventions. He wasn't wrestling. He was out of WWE. He wasn't in AEW yet. And he was, you know, backstage or whatever you want to call it, like not signing at the time. He's taking a little break. He said he was very carefully, Corey said he was very carefully putting little cheese cubes in his mouth so he wouldn't fuck up his makeup, right? And so Corey's striking up a conversation with him. He's like, man, this is a fucking killer event. All these people are here, blah, blah, blah. You know, these wrestlers, young wrestlers and old wrestlers. And Sting's like, yeah, it's so great to be back in the room with all my friends. And he said he pauses and slowly puts a piece of cheese in his mouth and says, the ones of us that are still here.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not saying that I did not enjoy this. I enjoyed it, but, you know, there's parts that I wish were different, but that's wrestling. You're always going to wish something happened different. I like this match more than I liked the first 2.5 hours of the pay-per-view, but I just, you know, I had hopes.
He came out to Metallica, and the motherfucker went out the heavy metal style.
Mm-hmm.
I respect it.
Let's talk about this. And this is a thing that hasn't happened on any of the other pay-per-views. And I know we've had pay-per-views that went much longer than 4 hours with AEW before.
Oh, getting cut off.
How the fuck did they run out of time?
Well, much like that tweet you read earlier. Is that a terrible look? Yes, it's a terrible look. But again, as wacky, as chaotic, as unpolished as this company is, I'm down, dude. I'm down for it. Like if I have to watch Sting's final words in a professional wrestling on a pay-per-view broadcast be like, I'm getting cues, hold on, and it goes off and they look stupid as shit. If I have to put up with that to put up with get the rest of the excellence that I saw, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make.
Yeah. I just thought it was weird. Like, how does that work?
Well, and
that's a technical question that somebody not in this room needs to be able to answer. But
and like, how do you not plan to have 10 minutes to have the locker room file out and to have all of the guys be there in the cloud?
I understand why they didn't file out, because evidently a bunch of them were in the crowd and they're playing close. That's what everybody's talking about, being able to see it. Yeah. Oh. So that's probably why they did it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to, yes. Going forward, yes, they need to clean that up. But
and maybe, that was his last Dynamite, so they can't have him come out and do an applause on Wednesday, can you?
No, but I do think
Or was it his last Dynamite in Huntsville?
Well, I think it's going to be the last Dynamite you ever get of Crowface Sting. I think if we ever see Sting again, it's sunglasses, and that's it.
Can I call bullshit on something?
What?
That man says he's never seen The Crow.
Oh, well, yeah,
I'm going to call bullshit on that.
I think he's seen it.
All right. Do y'all have a final?
Well, the
final
Darby
thoughts?
bump, too.
Yeah. He's fixing to go do his Mount Everest, right?
This is the craziest motherfucker that's ever been in wrestling. And to me, I don't even think it's close at this point.
Can we say, it's real glass?
Well, just the level of like all of these things. Is it a subtle middle finger to CM Punk? I don't know.
Not so subtle.
We hear all of these reports now. Samoa Joe come out post pay-per-view and be like, the locker room has never been tighter. We've never been better. Like, it's under my tutelage. Like, I don't know. And I want to give the Young Bucks their flowers because we all questioned what the Young Bucks' motivations for this. And I think they played their part absolutely perfectly.
Now, whether or not they end up with those tag titles is a different story.
Now, that is true.
They're going to win the tournament.
They still could come around and win the tournament.
Fuck it, man. I want to see best friends with it. I saw a tweet. Somebody was like, why have the best friends not had a chance to get a title yet? Like,
I don't know. But like, we sleep on the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
They're 100 times better as heels. And I have to think a lot of these spots and the way they get into it were their mind for the business. Like, part of the reason the 8-man scramble match probably felt like bullshit is because nobody in that match has any kind of history of being in that kind of match. If Matthew and Nick Jackson would have been in that 8-man scramble match, probably been a lot better because the ability to know where to be and to get people to talk about that stuff beforehand and to figure it out in a way that makes sense.
It also felt like a giant jobber match.
The 8-man too, yeah.
Because
sure.
I mean, when was the last time Brian Cage won anything?
Yeah.
Take that time and let Sting talk his way off the air.
Yeah, it's talk the air.
But again,
the glass, yeah, I mean, it's just insane.
Will Ospreay to me was where that pay-per-view should have started.
It definitely that is where the holy shit level of the pay-per-view started. And you could feel it in the crowd. Like I said, when Ospreay's music hit, everything changed.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign for him and for AEW as a whole.
Let's shift gears. Do y'all have any final thoughts on that before? Because we've still got a bunch of stuff to cover. Excuse me. Let's do SmackDown then. I did not get to see SmackDown or Raw this week because I was moving over the weekend. I say Friday night I was at the Hoss tournament, so I chose Hoss over SmackDown.
I think my note there is, yo, dog, I hear you like promos.
So he gave you a promo for the promo. I can only assume you're referring to what you guys texted me about, which was a 30-minute TV promo.
It's
from
37.
37-minute TV promo.
That was the second promo that The Rock had cut within the last day because he had cut Twitter. Third promo. He had cut a 15-minute promo. People had bitched about it being too long. So then he cut a 20-something minute promo, removed the 15-minute, added time to it.
If you have to take 40 minutes to say something, I don't know if you said it what you need to say. It was, I will give it credit. He is a tremendous heel. I think I texted all you guys, though. My one complaint with this, other than the fact it's way too long.
Clown emoji?
It is repetitive with a lot of the insults. It feels old school in a way that's not good. And I wish that this story had less of The Rock and more Dwayne Johnson. I don't think, and we're going to get into this a little bit with a couple other things. I think the Rock character is the one that you need for this story. Dwayne Johnson is the Rock at this stage. One of the things that brought him onto that board was getting claim of all that stuff that is his. That name, the catchphrases, the things he owns them now. You are getting Dwayne. Dwayne has come back to be what he is right now.
Who owns more stupid trademarks, The Rock or Chris Jericho?
Probably Jericho still hasn't beat. Jericho has a lot of trademarks.
Do you need to trademark Demo God?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this because this is something y'all brought up via text, and I had seen a similar thing already on Twitter. Was and I forgot which one of you was, but do you think that The Rock is working with Cody? Because there was some sort of hint.
Oh, yeah.
From Paul Heyman.
So this is the one thing. Yeah. So when they did it the first time, we all thought, oh, Rock's stupid or blah, blah, blah. Rock joined the Bang Bang Gang. How cool is that? But now.
Guns up, baby.
This was on purpose this time. And it was deliberate. And it was the camera movement is what told me that this is something we're supposed to pay attention to.
They made a point. I did see a few minutes of Raw last night, just kind of as I was sitting there taking a quick break from moving. They made a point to show the still photo, and Heyman is like,
well, and even on the SmackDown broadcast. So they cut to the wide shot. You see everybody there. Dwayne kind of halfway has the thumb out. Then he puts the thumb out all the way. The camera then cuts to a close-up of The Rock, goes back to the master shot. He puts the thumb in and does the one. The whole time Paul Heyman is looking past Roman and he's looking at The Rock. Mm-hmm. There's either one or two things that's happening here. The Rock is working with Cody Rhodes and he's a double agent. And this is secretly what they talked about. Or The Rock is going to be some kind of high chief character and him and Solo are going to take down Roman and they are going to do Rock and Roman with Roman as the babyface, which is probably. And you're
saying that as a either or. I think it might be an and.
It could be both. It could be all of the above. It could be The Rock told Cody his plan and.
But this
was their plan they concocted together.
I think what I told y'all is this promo, if you were looking, this show had drama, and it was because of this long-ass winded promo, because while it took him a while to get things, he was hitting all the beats that he needed to hit. You weren't going to get your chops. You weren't going to get your choke outs. And this was Friday, so we definitely weren't going to get anything amazing like what we got out of Takeshita and Ospreay.
Yeah.
But this is what they do best. They are telling... They are South Park wrestling nonstop. This is wrestling.
Yeah, I think that's but I think fundamentally that's where you and I part ways. Is it like I take real exception to a wrestling show that takes 40 minutes before somebody locks up. that's a little.
Leaves you 120. 100. Well, no, how my math is bad. 80 minutes for wrestling.
Yeah,
in a 2 hours.
But they do spectacle better than anybody else.
Yeah,
but and here's what kills me is he cut that 20-minute promo online, and mind you, that's good on him, because if somebody, there's one thing to, and I bet you about if you're not gonna show me on TV, it doesn't matter. It matters when you have 400 billion followers. There's the difference.
Yeah, it's a difference.
So he cut that promo on his phone because he didn't think he was going to get as much time as he got on Friday.
Holy shit, bro! How much? What you want the whole 2 hours? What do you want?
Yeah, but he said, but he's hitting those spots of, I'm here to be the boss. Seth Rollins, you don't want that? You're going to fuck with me? I'll take your title. I can do that. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
He started giving you the hints of the answers that you've been wanting, of this is the conversation I had, and we got a further development on that on Monday. So you have your answer now.
Well,
you may not like it, but you have an answer.
I'm unsatisfied. Let's just go ahead and, because WWE right now is about this. This is the shit that's going on. So we'll skip.
I mean, there's a couple quick things. I love that the Goldberg 2.0 that we got out of SmackDown.
Oh yeah, but they're gonna need to figure out something else, because that's not how people get over in 2024.
Who was
Braun Breaker? Braun Breaker looks badass, looks cool.
Came out, speared, 3-second match, done.
But that again,
I don't know. The crowd's into it.
The crowd will be into it now. This is not 1996. You're gonna have some kind of personality going forward. I think you might have one. I like Braun Breaker. I told you guys with the Royal Rumble, he feels bigger and better in a big arena than he ever did in NXT when I watched him. So that's good. Austin Theory is the second best in-ring wrestler in WWE behind Gunther.
That RKO was the way he took it from that, where he was getting ready to do the A-Town Down or whatever he was going to do. And the storyline he's got going with Grayson, keep throwing his ass under the bus, I think is going to be a good turn for him. The other thing I want to talk about SmackDown was there's a difference between AEW and WWE is in their street fights. Whereas when we get a street fight on AEW, you got 20 gallons of blood and all kinds of people getting stabbed in the head with, be it a 12-inch spike or whatever. Whereas there's an accessibility to the WWE because they are PG, and I think that I don't need blood every time, but I like that accessibility to make it so that it can be more a family program.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure. But give me the blood and give me the panes of glass and give me that stuff.
But if you're going to do that stuff, don't make it stupid. Like you're going to put a guy's head on a pyro thing and have him just kind of lean there for 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah. The way you do it is the way they did at Revolution, where Darby takes a huge bump and it literally takes him out of the match for 25 minutes. And it makes sense because you're like, he about damn near died.
You don't have everybody pile on the guy with I'm going to stop you from pushing the button by grabbing your arms, not the button, and have one guy just grab the guy out of the way. You have people run to the guy, pull him out of the way, let the pyro go off.
I do want to talk about, just real quick, on Austin Theory. Because people, even today, people are still not giving this dude enough credit. If you do not understand about what that man did, jumping up as high as he jumped, if you don't understand the level of athleticism that takes, this dude is a freak. And I get he doesn't have a lot of character, whatever. To me, Austin Theory he is a killer between those ropes.
Yep.
The selling ability, the athleticism to be that damn big and to move the motherfucker moves like a damn middle linebacker.
He is the AEW of WWE, and he stands out because his personality character is so weak here. But if you just took him as he is right now and put him in AEW, he'd be one of their better character workers.
They need to give him a mouthpiece. They need to quit with all this comedy bullshit when it comes to Austin Theory. I don't give it. The guy can learn on the fly how to talk. Give him a Paul Heyman. Give him somebody.
That's where I think you're getting back in the way.
Theory the way you present Gunther, because for as impressive as what Gunther is, and I do think Gunther is the best in-ring worker in WWE, Theory is literally right behind him. And the presentation couldn't be more different between those two guys.
That was when he was in NXT with Gargano and all them in the way. he was what you're asking for. So I think if you get him back into that, there's potential for him to get across the way you want to do.
But I mean, I need theory in there beating the shit out of people.
Okay, I'm with you.
I need it. That's what I need.
Let's get into Monday Night Raw because we were going to continue this.
Oh yes, the Cody Rhodes explanation. So Cody Rhodes says, The Rock told me that the people didn't want to see Cody and Roman. They wanted to see Rock and Roman. Again, if that is the answer you're going to get, I'd rather you not give me an answer than give me that answer. Because for a year, fans all across the world have been eating out of the palm of Cody's hands. Is he just not? He didn't realize that? He didn't realize it at the Royal Rumble?
There is always going to be a self-doubt to Cody Rhodes. That is part of what makes Cody Rhodes Cody Rhodes. Is while he can believe in himself and he's gotten there, when he gets the criticism from somebody like those legends, he takes it to heart.
Your explanation of The Rock appealing to Cody on family terms would have made way more sense than this kind of shit, because I get that you're saying the self-doubt, but we're done with the self-doubt. We're on to Cody, the bloodline hunter. We're on to Cody is about to whoop ass. He should be.
He's not the bloodline hunter yet. He's still the bloodline reacting.
But like, that's the type of, we're past the self-doubt hero. Like, there is a moment in any kind of like story, be it fantasy, science fiction, whatever. Yes, the hero has a moment where it's like things could not get any lower, but at some point the hero becomes an ass kicker, and he becomes a person, or she becomes a person that you can get behind because they're beating people's ass.
You're asking for that moment in a different way. It may not have been as satisfying as you want. You wanted answers. You got the answer. I mean,
and it's a piss poor answer. I'd rather they left it unanswered.
I think it satisfies as much as we need.
But Cody on Monday night did his part to sell this segment. And honest to God, I would rather see anybody else in this thing other than Seth Rollins. He is the most unserious character in what is a very serious storyline.
I agree 100% that I think Sammy would have been a better sidekick for him based on where Sammy came from, the story that had been told prior. I get your complaint about Seth, but I think this is the Seth that you need, because in Seth's mind, he made Roman Reigns in the Shield. In his mind, he was the star of the Shield. So he's got to come across as that cocky, just bullshit Seth Rollins. He has to be the clown show Seth Rollins for this story, so that you'll see the dramatic, difference between the Seth Rollins that you get when he has a physical hatred for a dude like CM Punk. That's the character that you're getting for this story is the Seth that you need for this story, especially when the story is Drew telling him, bruh, you're overlooking me and I'm going to whip your ass because you're treating me like a joke. If he came across as serious in that, the truth that Drew speaks isn't as whole.
But the truth could still be the same, because if Seth was way more serious in this promo, Drew's then response could just be, you are overlooking me, and your passion and your desire to see the bloodline fall is what's going to cost you this title.
But it's not just going to cost him the title. You need this Seth because it's going to cost them the tag match too.
I don't need a Seth Rollins that says that tries to get diarrhea Dwayne over.
Oh, but you know what? That crowd was chanting diarrhea,
and he got lambasted as he should on the internet. This was his suffering succotash moment.
What was the thing that Drew McIntyre tweeted?
Bro
thought he was cooking. Yeah. If you let Russell Wilson and Seth Rollins cook in a kitchen, that motherfucker's going to burn down. That's basically where he's at right now.
But the crowd there eats it. Do I think it's stupid as hell? Yes, just as much as I thought the Rock trying to get the clown emoji Rollins over. But those two characters are the exact ones you need for each other.
We are going into WrestleMania. The Rock is back. Roman Reigns is on his historic streak. Cody Rhodes is trying to finish his story. Can I at least have it be serious for the whole time? The Rock slapped the shit out of Cody Rhodes at a press conference. Seth Rollins about willing to fight, and 2 weeks later, he's out here doing middle school insults again. Like, the unseriousness of this, of WWE, and I get this is the fundamental difference. The unseriousness of the product at times absolutely just takes me out of it.
I don't think it is to me, it's not coming across as unserious as you're taking it, but I also disagree that there's a more serious nature on the other side. I just think there's a more let me be in the ring because I don't know how to talk thing.
Granted, but you can have serious promos, and like I said else on this thing from Monday Night Raw, Ivar's a great worker.
That's what I was just
okay.
I was reading this,
but when I have a promo and Sami Zayn is backstage and he is cutting a promo talking about all this shit he's gone through from the Royal Rumble, and now a path has presented itself, and he's going to try to win a championship at WrestleMania, which is what all these guys try to do when they're young kids. And he gets interrupted by two people who are cosplaying as dirty ass Vikings that need a shower. It blows my mind.
I want you to look me in my eye and tell me this. When you are comparing that, when there's a living goddamn dinosaur in the other promotion and a woman who has the championship belt who thinks she is living in the WB era of television.
But they don't get.
They don't get because they don't get. But there's a difference. The other difference between those two is Ivar at least will outwork either one of them in the ring.
That's what I'm saying. Ivar is a great worker, but we talked about I do think Luchasaurus is kind of stupid, but Luchasaurus is not. Luchasaurus is not interrupting one of the biggest baby faces in the company.
Where I think they failed in that promo, they did fail in that promo. I am 100% there with you, but I don't hate on the fact that they want to be Vikings. That's their thing. I feel like that's what they do in their life. I have no problem believing it. I think when Valhalla started talking, she was able to portray what she was feeling in a believable way. And then you had Ivar interrupt and read a script.
Right. There are so many across both companies. There are so many guys that do not come across as believable.
His ass should have just kept his fucking mouth shut and let her finish saying everything he's going to say and point at him. And that would have came off completely different than letting him try to say it. And I get that, you want to give people opportunities to challenge themselves, but he does not come across with the dialogue that he has given as believable.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's problems in WWE, and it's a lot of the problems with some top guys though. Like, to me, that's my problem with Seth Rollins. He does not come across as a believable character, and he is in a storyline with three dudes. Roman comes off believable as hell. Cody comes off believable as hell. The Rock, for all his middle school insults and all this kind of bullshit, he does come across as believable and a big Hollywood star because that's exactly what he is.
But I think that's the believability of Seth Rollins in the sense that he is trying to be better than what he realizes he is. And so it's coming across as that game, but that's the realistic nature of it. If he would just go back to what you're wanting to, he'll eventually find that. This is going to be that moment that kind of lets him shed that skin. The fact that he is doing this and that it's going to cost him everything that he holds dear is what's going to get him into that place that you want him to be.
Maybe. It's just, if you've watched any of Seth Rollins since he's been in this program, who is the one dude who is constantly pulling down this segment? And it's him. Everybody else is playing their part. This is serious. Seth goes, I have a new nickname, Diarrhea Dwayne. What?
But that's his. He comes out there. He wants to conduct the crowd. He's wanting to be the person to get the chants over. He's wanting people to sing to him because he wants to be the PR manipulator, and it's going to cost him.
I mean, I get it's going to cost him, but in kayfabe, does he not get the character of Seth Rollins how serious this moment is?
Yeah, at some point,
I don't think he does. I think because he thinks that he built Roman Reigns, that he can take Roman Reigns out, so he's going to be that cocky SOB that because everybody else doesn't have that claim, whereas he has the claim of, I cashed in the middle of your goddamn Brock Lesnar match and made you look like an idiot. You were nothing in the Shield. I was taking you. I whopped your ass in that too. Every place that you have succeeded, I have done better. And right now you think you're ahead, but I'm going to get you one better, and I'm going to do it in full clown makeup.
And if he would have cut, outside the clown makeup, if he would have cut the same promo with the same tone that you just did, that's a way better character. He's not doing all of the stuff you just said.
But again,
you're right.
You got to have that the other part to make the Drew part. It's because you have so many different moving parts. I think you need him to be what he's being in order for Drew to come off as such I'm a completely right and you're an idiot mentality heel.
But I think you can do that still by having a more serious Seth Rollins a month before WrestleMania, where they're about to go take on what's been the most historic, most prestigious champion that WWE has had in the modern era.
What is the note here about Judgment Day working his faces?
They are right now putting Judgment. I mean, if you watch the match between him and Gunther,
Dominic come off as a face?
Yeah, Dominic was coming from underneath.
But he didn't. The crowd was eating it up. They wanted to see him get the shit beat out of him.
100%. But they are positioning. They're letting him show off that work. And as you've said repeatedly, when somebody sees that you can work, you're going to get over.
Yeah.
They've got Damian when you have Judgment Day versus the Imperium, be it Dom versus Gunther or Finn and Balor, or Finn and a Priest against whatever the hell their name, Ludwig and Giovanni. Yeah. They were letting the Imperium be the bigger bad guys. They were taking that underdog, that the hot tag kind of stuff. I think they're testing the grounds to see if, because Rhea is what Rhea is, if she can carry that entire group with them, I think they'll run with it and let Imperium or somebody else fill in that next level and just let that story kind of go along. Maybe that's the split of where, one of them doesn't want to be good or what have you. But to me, that's I'm seeing hints of it.
I think that the match with some of those guys, maybe like, could you get Finn Balor back over as babyface? Sure. People will love him. I don't think you can Damian Priest. And
like I said, you heard my theory on what they do with Priest, and you hate it. It makes you insane, but that could be the split.
It's Damian Priest. You want to talk about a guy that's been given opportunities. He's had a ton of opportunities. To me, he's not been that impressive in anything that he's done. Again, we want to talk about believability. He does not come off as believable. Doesn't come off as...
The most impressive thing he did was have that match with Bad Bunny. That was a damn good match, but that was a long time ago.
It was last April.
What have you done? I get 100% the what have you done for me lately mentality.
So, and again, believability. He comes off like he's a dude trying to play a pro wrestler.
I think in these last two matches that he's been able to, like the Elimination Chamber one where they didn't have the interference, and this match last night or on Monday, whatever day it is, on Monday, they are allowing him to kind of show a little bit more, and I think it's coming across a little bit better, but it's a long road for him.
When is Money in the Bank? Because he's
July.
He only has until then, right, to cash in.
It's either July or June, one of the 4-letter summers.
I don't know what they do because I'm not interested in a Damian Priest, any kind of world title picture whatsoever.
There's one last note, it looks like. It says Drew McIntyre, all truth, no lies.
He is the best character in WWE right now.
Player hater of the year.
It's not even so much now he's a player hater. He just happens, he's a truth teller. He is the only guy that is seeing through everybody's bullshit and is able to read the room and tell people like straight up what is going on. The fact that Seth Rollins Monday night literally just ran past him to go help whoever's in the ring. I don't remember who it was, Jimmy.
Yeah. And
Drew's turnaround and the production lingering on the shot as he's like, is this motherfucker just ran right past me? And then he goes in and just beats his ass. He's great. And I want to see more Drew McIntyre. And I think he will take the title from Seth at WrestleMania because it makes sense in storyline. Cody and Seth are going to lose night one in the tag team match. I think Seth and Drew open up night 2 of WrestleMania, and commentary is all about, okay, here's Cody and all his ragtag group of guys. Are they going to take down the bloodline? Are they going to be successful? And then, oh shit, Drew beats the hell out of Seth and wins the title. Things don't look good for Cody. Like it makes all kinds of sense.
And even further along, you get Jay, who then gets his first title run off of Drew.
You could do something like that. Yeah. WrestleMania is going to be a bonkers, overbooked fest like we've never seen before. This shit's about to get crazy.
One of my complaints with WrestleMania has always been that it's so damn long. And it's still just as damn long, but it's now spread over multiple days. And my hope is that they don't make each of those days like an old WrestleMania show where it's 19 hours of wrestling on a pay-per-view.
Well, there won't be that much time of wrestling anyway.
Well,
it'd be 10 hours of 19 hours.
Night 2 is going to be, you're going to see, obviously, Cody and Roman. You're going to see The Rock. You're going to see Sammy. You're going to see Jimmy, Jay, Solo.
Do you think they put Rhea and Becky on night 1 or 2?
Probably night 1.
I don't know if it's going to be Rhea and Becky at this stage. The way they're building this, it now might. I said a 3-way last week. It may be a 4-way.
I think it's still Rhea and Becky. A lot of people, and we'll wrap it up with this. A lot of people have been posting Stone Cold workout videos.
Mm-hmm. What do you do with that?
Listen,
so put him versus Punk.
I think we made this comparison where Cody is basically now assembling the Avengers. You can imagine a situation where we get to night 2.
Look at you fan booking this so hard.
And well, it's right, dude. It's right there in the cards. Like, why else are you going to do? Okay, you have a couple problems here.
If you really wanted to work out and not be seen, you could work out and not be seen.
So there's that. So Stone Cold is being purposeful about, here's some workout shit.
Well, John Cena's out there talking shit too, though. So, I mean,
I'm not so surprised you don't damn see John Cena. What I'm saying, this end with Bloodline goes, anything goes. This shit is about to be. This is going to be Avengers in Infinity War Endgame. This is the tunnel opens. Out comes all the heroes. This is the shit that's
from the
about to
rafters.
I mean, you can imagine a
Crazier
scenario.
shit has happened, right?
Cody's getting beat down. Seth's getting beat down. Jimmy's getting beat down. Sammy's out there. Does WWE put a call in and let Dustin Rhodes come in and do a run in at WrestleMania? I would. You could imagine all that scenario. And then in Philadelphia, the damn glass breaks. Out comes Stone Cold. The fucking Bloodline's like, oh shit. All the good guys powder out of the ring. They meet Stone Cold at the end of the ramp. Everybody gets up in the ring, and you have The Rock, Roman, Solo, Jimmy, all the Bloodline versus all of Cody's guys.
The fucking camera does the 360 around them, just
And
like
then
in the middle of
boom,
New York City.
There they run
Avengers.
just like the movie. Bam, and here we go.
I can't see, because you need The Rock further on in this story, you can't have him do that Austin moment to me. That wastes the capital that you have if you're trying to do a Roman versus him moment later.
But I think you can. Rock can come back the next night on Monday Night Raw and pitch it off, and he can play it off and be impressed that Cody got the thing, and he can place his blame and all his heat immediately on Roman Reigns. You drop this ball, and now we get Rock and Roman and that sort of situation. I'm just telling you, you don't throw out, if we win night 1 at WrestleMania, it's going to be Bloodline, anything goes. If you then don't have the night 2 be the most batshit crazy epic thing that you could possibly
if
throw
you're
out
going to
there.
do it, you do it on an even number year like this, like 40. You don't do this at like year 36 or some shit.
But I also think because of that, if he solos it, Cody solos this, it also makes it even more epic when he overcomes every
not soloing this thing.
stupid challenge.
There will be everybody that has ever had a problem with the bloodline will be there. That's why you set it up. If you didn't want to do that, you wouldn't do the tag match night one at WrestleMania if you were just going to have Cody and Roman.
I think he needs to overcome more of it than the others do. Do I think the others need to come in and help? Yes, but I think he has to be seen as doing the heavy lifting.
Sure, yeah.
Well, yeah, he's the heavy lifting, but what I'm saying is he will be the one that actually pins Roman Reigns, and Roman will hit a crossroads. But to get all them other guys out of there, you are going to have. There's going to be at one point 10 or 12 people standing in that ring facing off across from each other. The fans are going to be chanting, holy shit. Like Corey said, the camera's going to spin around. We're going to get the two sides, and then they're going to go at it.
The part that's exciting me the most is the potential of what comes next, because they secured the Tommy Tonga from New Japan. Jacob has signed a deal with some podunk company out of nowhere that I'm like, okay, but did you kind of thing? So it's having those opportunities to see some of those lesser known bloodline members who are just as good as the Usos, I think is, so much potential that I'm really excited about that too.
Hear me out. Kurt Angle in a milk truck.
Listen, I don't know what will happen this WrestleMania. Did Goldberg ever have a run in with Roman Reigns?
Yeah, didn't he?
I think so. I mean, damn Roman Reigns.
Or did he lose it to Braun?
What about Batista?
Anybody that the bloodline has gone up against and failed, I think Cody makes all the calls.
So you're saying Brock comes back at WrestleMania?
I don't think Brock might be the only one that does it. Brock might be out up forever.
A mysterious force causes the ring to go up to one side, but nobody knows who caused it.
Yeah.
I do have a question that doesn't pertain to this. See what you guys might think about it. I saw something today on Twitter that said that there are reports that Mick Foley's trying to lose 100 pounds.
Yeah, he wants one more comeback.
And wants to do one more match.
Wants to have a death match. Yeah.
Where does that happen?
I don't know where it happens. The best possible opponent, in my opinion, would be a Jon Moxley.
Does he still hold a grudge against Moxley?
Well, there's that famous thing how Dean Ambrose was going to come into the WWE and he was going to first feud with Mick Foley, and Mick couldn't clear physical. There's all that out there. So.
Well, there's also the fact that Moxley went off script and was going after talking shit about Mick's family, which Mick wasn't cool with too.
Oh, yeah. There's that too. So, but I mean, if Mick wants to do it, after watching Revolution and seeing the send off that Sting got, I think a lot of old time guys are going to be like, I want one more match like that.
I can
something to try to,
it just depends
right off in the sunset
on who his ideal opponent is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be it, unless you guys we've covered a lot of ground. I know we covered a whole bunch of AEW, but it was a big-ass pay-per-view.
One of because I'm talking about Jacob Fatu, but one of his biggest opponents is a guy that was built for wrestling, and I don't understand why he is not on AEW or WWE, but Hammerstone has gone to TNA. And if you want to see what a wrestler looks, that dude is able to pull off some badass moves, but he looks like what you would want out of a wrestler.
I think if you're, maybe if you're WWE, maybe you just overlooked him. If you're AEW, like we've talked about, unless you already have a name and you're already established, they're not the company that's going to mold you into the biggest possible version of yourself that you could be, and you're already bloated.
But he would stand out immediately as a monster among their monsters.
Sure, but now you have, there might only be a certain number of those roles in AEW, and Samoa Joe has one as a monster champion. And it seems as if they still have stock invested in Wardlow, which for better or worse, I don't know. So,
when you got people like Roosh on the roster.
yeah. And,
I don't know if he stands out as a monster so much, though.
but to his point though, there is a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah.
A lot of mouths.
Well, let's wrap it up. We'll see y'all next week. Yeah, but until then, you can listen to our other podcasts on our network at thealabamatake.com. Follow the Alabama Take on all social media. You can find us at Alabama Slam Pod on Instagram and Threads. And I guess that's it. We'll see y'all next week.